Black Sprinter, windows on max tenor, mad sinner, sweating like it's past winter. No witness, offshore tax printer. Try following the money, but the bag quicker. If he a rat killer, bodies in vast rivers. The strap widower for blood more than Dracula. Counter wind ass spinners, pack flipper. That's the blackjack ripper, body bag zipper. Trash bucket.
Yo, I'm very excited for today's episode. With my guy here, Sean motherfucking White. What up, bro? How you doing today?
Man. Always a good one, man.
My other co-host and brother, DJ Invisible, also known as
Alter Negro.
What up, dog? Let's go.
Let's go.
But I'm drunk. You already know. But I wanna give the proper introduction to this guest. Surrey-born Canadian rap legend from underground star to underground navigating independent artist and inspiration to multi-platinum record recording artist, fucking YouTube viral sensation with over 600 million views and counting. Correct me if I'm wrong. The list can go on and on and on, but also, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the first Canadian ever to be signed to motherfucking Death Row Records. Like,
let's go,
we got
baby.
Merkules in the building tonight, man. Let's go, Big Merk. Let's go, Big Merk.
As much as I appreciate that intro, because that was amazing.
Wrong?
No, all of that was great. Is your name actually Sean White, like the snowboarder?
Yeah, dude.
It is, though.
Like the actual snowboarder?
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay, I had to get that out the way.
Yeah.
Thank you for the introduction. I appreciate that.
I was shook. He's like, I'm not the first. Fuck.
You're like, oh, man.
No, imagine me just, that. I think Vanilla Ice was there for 5 minutes, but that's whatever.
But he's not Canadian.
Was he Daniel?
True.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, man, I'm very blessed to be here. I was just saying before I got on here, like my wife has audio podcast that she does. We haven't done anything visual with it yet, but besides that, this is the first podcast I think I've ever done. So I'm stoked to be here, man, for sure.
That's major and that's crazy.
Thank you for making us the
crazy.
first one, man.
Oh, it's
Appreciate
love,
that,
man. You already know. And I've been excited to just get up here, tell my story, and do all that. And like I said before I even got here, I've seen what you guys are building and what you're working on, and there's no better place than right here. So I'm stoked.
Yo, respect.
I'm blessed, man.
Thank you for having me as well. Appreciate you.
We got some legends
You
in the
already
house today, man.
Appreciate
There's
that.
some legendary heavy hitters here. Let's just take it back to where you started off, bro. Let's just bring Surrey right into this. What does it mean to you? How has it molded you? And tell us about your upbringing and a little bit of your story from Surrey.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that when I was young, I think when my parents moved us to Surrey, because I was born in Vancouver, they had like a little apartment out there at the time. Yeah. But when I was like 2 years old or something, I believe, when we moved to Surrey. And I think that on surface level, my parents didn't realize that Surrey was Surrey. You know what I mean? At the end of the day. And I mean, it's definitely a place that I'm very proud to be from. I try to yell it as loud as possible on records.
You do.
I'd scream it from the mountaintop all day if I could. And no, it's my city, and it's when people think Vancouver, they just think Vancouver. They don't think about all the places surrounding it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So no, it's Surrey all day, man. And I'm very proud to be from where I'm from. And I feel like as far as hip hop goes, I've been able to carry the torch there, and it's something that I'm stoked about. Shout out to Caspian. I say other than me, I feel like anybody before me would probably be cast to be specifically from Surrey, and a lot of the Stomp Down guys that I grew up around that gave me the platform. But no, man, it's Surrey all day for sure.
And they're proud of you too. And obviously,
no, for sure. Those guys gave me like a platform when I maybe even didn't deserve it yet. Like I was just young and excited and just stoked to fucking be a part of the culture at the time, and they definitely kind of put what I was building and put it on steroids and helped get me here. So
facts. Shout out to them. Definitely.
Sure, 100%.
Yeah, man, them Stomp dudes. Actually, I messed with them in fashion a little bit too, and I can say,
Yeah,
just like you said, man,
Yeah.
they would take a chance on you, and they were down to build with you. You know what I mean?
Totally. It's funny because people always ask me to this day, they're like, "Oh man, like, so what's up with Stomp Down? Like, are you not Stomp Down anymore?" It's like, dude, I got this shit tattooed on the back of my fucking head. Like, it's always gonna be Stomp Down forever. A lot of the guys have just like grown to become fathers now, and they're just doing like their family thing, and like I love that for them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't expect them to be out writing graffiti, risking their freedom when they have kids now and shit. You know what I mean? So
get them started
I'm still
young.
cool with everybody for the most part, but I mean, yeah, it's Stomp Down forever, no matter what. So.
Legendary movement, historic part of Canadian rap history. So any way you want to chalk it up, that's just it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
And I wasn't a part of it until late in the game. Like I'm talking 2002, I believe, is when it started. And I wasn't a part of the picture until like 2012, 2013, I'd say. Or maybe a little bit earlier, but regardless, like that foundation had been built way before I was in the picture. So definitely proud to be a part of that movement specifically, and like yeah, no, it was definitely a huge part of my story for sure.
Facts.
So.
Since we're there, since like that's kind of we're kind of overlapping that. Like, how did you actually become part of that movement?
Well, I always knew that like hip hop was what I wanted to do. I had a cousin named Scott, and he gets so fucking stoked whenever I bring him up. He's like, he's gonna show every chick this fucking interview.
Shout out Scott.
My cousin Scotty, I went to his place, and like I was already listening to hip hop at the time, but I remember he was like, "Yo, let's go hang out," and he like brought me in his room and had all these posters and like was just teaching me like all this shit and showing me all these classic records, and that kind of just like fucking, I don't know, man. It just that day, it's like a core memory for me. Like I remember it specifically. I was young as hell. I'm talking like 6, 7 years old. You know what I mean? And as soon as that moment happened for me, I knew there was just like every bone in my body knew that was what I was going to eventually do for a living. And later on in time, obviously being from Surrey, that was just the crew that was already doing it. You know what I mean? So I looked up to them. It's funny actually. Like I would like go cut grass and save up money so I could go buy a Stomp Down T-shirt when I was a kid, and there was actually a point in time where I had like a customer of the month photo on the wall.
That's crazy.
In the store of me.
Shut
and
the fuck
I
up.
swear to God, bro, and I was just like little ass kid, and they were like, "Yo, like this is like the customer of the month or whatever." And I think it was kind of almost like an inside joke, like it was ironic because I was around that much. But like there was times where I was like just the annoying kid. I would sweep the floor, I'd do whatever it was to just kind of like be in the picture. You know what I mean? But yeah, man.
Soak up game, just be around.
Totally, for sure. And it's, like I said, major part of my story. A part that I definitely, in situations like this where I'm being asked questions, I don't ever want to overlook or discredit because it's a major reason why I'm here.
Yeah, and that's why it's a good place to start too, because that's like the backbone and the
Totally,
starting
for
everything.
sure, bro.
So, no, go ahead, brother.
Now you talked about records that inspired you.
Yeah.
Me becoming comedian.
He's like, yeah, let me get my shit
That's what I
off.
wanted to hear, yeah.
Like, what was your inspiration?
Yeah.
Like, what was your
In the
earliest-
early era, man, honestly, I was obsessed with Brother Lynch Hung for some reason.
Okay.
And shout out to him. He's actually on my new record that's coming out soon.
Incredible.
I shouldn't say for some reason because he's a legend in his own right, but when I say for some reason, it's because it was just such a left field sound, and a lot of the older guys that I hung out with would listen to him. So that is why I would hear his stuff. But no, Brother Lynch Hung, X-rated as well for sure. Obviously, like the 50 Cents, the Eminems, Nas, shit like that. Just kind of whatever I was hearing by the means of other people
So that was
that
the
I would
first-
like grow to love.
Yeah. What was the first hip hop song you heard?
Oh, that's tough, man. I know my first hip hop album I ever had was Exhibit's Restless. And it's actually a funny story because I had a babysitter at the time. Like that's how young I was, and my babysitter was actually like hooking up with my cousin at the time, and it was like this funny thing. And basically, he was like trying to keep that under wraps, but I knew about it, and I was young as hell because my cousin at the time lived in the basement, right? So they had this little thing, and I told him, I was like, "Listen, bro, I'm like, you get me the uncensored version of this record, and I'm gonna keep my fucking mouth shut." You know what I mean? So, bro, went to the A&B Sound in Wally.
Yeah.
Anybody from Surrey knows what I'm talking about. Got me the record, and that was like the first time I like physically had like a rap album in my hand. And I think my second album that I also made him get because I'm a piece of shit was Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style. So,
That's hard. That's hard.
which is ironic now.
That's
for
hard.
sure.
I gotta jump
good
in,
album,
man,
too.
because he
Yeah,
just
for
hit
sure.
too many chords with me right there. First of all, shout out babysitters exposing you to shit you shouldn't see.
Yeah, facts.
Because like I learned 2 Live Crew from my babysitter.
Facts. Yeah,
you know what I mean? So just like
Your
you,
babysitter was a
shit.
fucking freak.
and I'm old. Yeah, I know.
Clearly.
Oh, yo, no,
2 Live Crew.
Crew. So when he said
Yeah,
that, I
of
was like,
all fucking groups,
100%.
Yeah, like-
yeah.
And then my first physical album, just like Snoop Doggy Style. I remember just
Yeah.
getting the cassette tape. And so, no, everything you said was
Well, because
just.
they had the censored joints then,
Uh-huh.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, okay, fine. Like, I put my dad in this awkward position where it's like, okay, I'll buy you a rap album, but like, your mom said we got to get this one. You know what I mean? So it's like, anytime I heard fuck, like, all the hairs in my body would stand up. I'd be like, oh my God, he just said fuck on a record.
yeah.
Like, that shit just amped me up. So I'm like, I need the uncensored version. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, totally. It's
I was lucky
hilarious.
with immigrant parents. My dad had no clue.
He's like, yeah,
Like,
whatever.
"This is good."
Yeah, facts for sure.
That's hard.
But yeah, that's kind of like how I found hip hop for sure. So
Well, yeah.
totally.
Well, when you were saying that, and you were like, okay, you know, that was when that core day you mentioned, you were like, oh, that's a core memory.
Yeah.
Was there a song or an artist that really impacted you that day?
You know
that
what's so funny about this?
Yeah.
And as much of a 50 Cent fan as I am, I do think that Ja Rule had an era that was very important for us not to overlook.
Yes, this is
I
true.
think that he kind of just doesn't get his just due based solely
'Cause
on
of
the
that.
fact that 50 is 50, and I love 50. Like 50's in my top 5, if not number 1.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I remember him at the time specifically downloading. I think what's it called?
Vinny
The
Vici or
Yeah,
something
Yeah,
like
Vinny
that.
Vici,
exactly.
yeah.
I can see the cover in my head. He was
It's all
downloading
like
that
gray and rainy.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
shit.
gray and rainy.
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
got the braids and
Yeah.
shit. Yeah, so he was downloading that album on Napster at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was part of the core memory is he was downloading that. I don't think that was necessarily the shit that had me so drawn to it that I'm like, oh, this is like.
But it's part of that memory.
Yeah, it was just one of the things that was happening at that time.
But that
which
one
is
was
fun.
that did go hard. though.
Def
I can't
Jam,
lie.
too.
Yeah, that's when that was before.
What's
he
the
got-
cover with the all red cover?
That's the 316.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I know all my Ja
I'm
Rule
about to
facts,
say,
bro.
man, that's what Mona Shaw
But that's the thing, bro. Is it sucks that we almost have to like find humor in the fact that it's Ja Rule because 50 has scolded him
Yes,
so
of
badly.
course, yes.
And like I said, I love 50, but Ja Rule had
Ja's
a
a
run that we
legend.
can't. Ja Rule has a run that we cannot overlook.
Ja's a legend. Ja would fuck a lot of people up in a versus battle regardless to this day, so
100%.
whatever. Obviously, I like 52 more than Ja, you know what I mean? Personal preference, but Ja,
Yeah.
you can't deny his place in hip-hop history. Like,
And the hits that he was creating at the time too, bro. Like he had back to back hits. It's not like he
oh,
just
it's
had
ridiculous.
one. And of course, obviously, with the help of having like a super dope female on the hook or second verse or whatever that's already doing their own thing. But yeah, I just every time Ja Rule gets brought up, I want to make it clear that we can't overlook his run because it was important at
The
the time.
J-Lo shit.
I was gonna say, imagine where his run might have went if that super group had happened and it had been like Murder Inc. with like DMX,
Yeah.
Jay-Z, and Ja Rule.
Yeah, well, that's the
how
power.
hip hop would have went.
That
this
was the
whole
that
nother
was the
direction.
power of Eminem and 50. They were able to just
100%.
literally
Just split that up.
pack careers up and throw them out the window.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it's fucking
facts.
nuts, man. It's
That's crazy. Well,
Yeah.
I'd say I don't know if this is too quick of a transition, but you talked about obviously being the first Canadian signed to death row.
Yeah, totally.
As we sit here, and
I
you-
talked about it.
You did talk about it.
Fuck with you.
We as in he, right? When we talk about that, how does that feel now? When we talk about this history, this hip hop history, you are part on so many levels, but now actually
Yeah, man.
standing next to these guys that we're sitting here talking about, like
That's
shit's
crazy,
insane,
man.
dude.
I'm having
Incredible.
every day I have pinch me moments, man, where I look around and I just see how think about how blessed I am in the position I'm in, and it's crazy, man. And obviously, Death Row just as a label kind of shapeshifted hip hop and everybody's opinion on hip hop in so many different ways. So to be a part of that legacy in any way, shape, or form is crazy. The coolest thing about it too, man, is as much as we throw around the word signed, like even I say on stage, like signed to Death Row, it's really just like a really dope cosign that didn't involve any paperwork, and it's really just being like, hey man, like we see what you're doing, we're gonna give you this cosign, whatever you want to call it, pass the torch to you, you can run with it however you will, kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's been no creative control whatsoever, and that's the coolest part about it, is it's like it's more so just like a massive umbrella and a cosign that's just like the coolest thing in the world. Obviously, like I said, for my second album I ever owned, being Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style, and having him in my corner now is the coolest.
That's
like, bro,
circle
it's-
moment.
Oh man, that's universal alignment right there, bro. That's
for real, for real.
crazy.
Yeah.
Now, are you the first white rapper on Death Row?
No, so I do believe that Vanilla Ice had like a 5-minute phase there. And no shade to him. I'm not saying that to like sound. I just don't know the history enough to like speak on it too much. But I've tossed around the idea of being the first white rapper, and
Breaking down barriers,
and people
bro,
have tried to
that's
check me and be like, nah, Vanilla Ice was there for like
Yeah.
2 seconds or whatever. So shout out to Vanilla Ice. No shade thrown at all, but he was there at
Like
one
coming
point.
from Canada, and you're like the Steve Nash.
Yeah, I
You know what
guess
I'm
so
saying?
in a way, for sure, totally. Yeah.
Overcoming hurdles is incredible. To
Yeah,
watch.
man, and I can't have this conversation without shouting out Kev. He's been working closely with Snoop for like over 20 years, and none of this would have been made possible if it wasn't for him just watching what I was doing and watching the momentum grow and like really getting in Snoop's ear and making that happen for me. So shout out to Kev all day long. Yeah, for sure. Canadian as well. So London, Ontario. Shout out London, Ontario.
okay.
Dope.
Yeah, for sure. Totally.
Yo, I'm gonna switch gears on you real quickly
Yeah,
here
man,
because
for sure.
you know I relate to you on a couple things. We had a couple chats beforehand.
You bringing it back.
I'm gonna bring it back.
Bring it back.
We talked about where it started.
Throwback
I wonder
Monday,
if
baby.
this is bringing it back to Surrey or not. Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe so.
for sure.
I know every scar's got a story, and I got a
Yeah.
few stories on myself here.
Totally, man.
So, do you have any stories that you want to share with us? I know
Yeah,
you've been
man. I
through
mean,
some.
of course, that's the thing. Especially when the scars are on your face, it's hard
Yeah.
to ignore the conversation. As I grow, no matter what gets brought up a lot. Now it's a situation where I'm actually grateful for the way that everything went down and how it happened.
Yeah.
it's funny because I hear these rumors even to this day of how like that night went and like, yo, is it true that like this happened or that happened? I seen one that said like I was jumping a chain link fence and my face got caught. Like just I read the craziest shit. Somebody said it was no, he got attacked by a pit bull. Like it's hilarious to read the internet's narrative of things and these things that they make up in their minds. But I've been pretty open with it. Like I'm an open book with my fan base. I think that's why I'm like kind of in the position that I am, to be honest.
Yeah.
And no, it's gotten to a point where anytime it gets brought up, I'm actually happy to talk about it. It was a very fucked up time for me at the time, but no, I was like 15, 16 at the time. I was walking home from a party. It's actually funny because it was the first time that I'd like really been in the studio was that night prior to going to said party, and me and Snack made a record.
Shout out to Snack.
Shout out Snack all day. And it was like the first time I was in like a real studio recording at the time. So anyways, we made this song and I'm like so amped to like bring it to like all my older homies and be like, yo man, like I had it on a burnt disc. I'm like, just throw this in the fucking CD player when I get there. I'm so excited. So I was having a great night at the time, right? And then we're walking home. It was me, my homie and our girlfriends at the time. And basically it was like snowing. It was New Year's. So everybody's like drinking, doing their thing. And
Surrey, though.
In Surrey, yeah. No, this is like literally.
Surrey.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. Let me make that very clear. This was like 2 blocks away from my house.
Okay.
So in Surrey, 2 blocks away from my house, we're walking to my house at the time, and this car just like swerves all drunk, and I'm like, okay, I just assume right away off rip it's a drunk driver, drunk driver, whatever, and I just yell out like slow the fuck down or whatever, because bro's like right up in like right there, you know what I mean? And then he pulls over, rolls his window down, and he's just like, oh, fuck off, blah, blah, blah. We kind of get into it with the guy. He gets out. A little bit of a fight breaks out. We don't think much of it. He jumps back in the whip, says he's going to be back. We're like, okay, whatever. He fucks off. And then he came back later, like probably I'd say like 5 minutes later. Well, I don't know if it was him, but a car came up on each side of like an alleyway that we were walking through, basically. Well, close to this alleyway, and they just jumped out and fucking went to business, bro. I got hit in the face with a bat first. Obviously that like just threw me in a shock because I didn't see it coming. Just shows you how these random occurrences can happen, and that was kind of the part that like fucked me up the most. I remember obviously getting stabbed here, and then I remember there was like this pivotal moment where this like boot was like on my chest, and fucking I remember bro was like grabbing my face, whoever this dude was, and he was like, is he done, like talking to someone else, and the other guy was like, fucking no, one more. And then I'm like, oh, fuck. So I like know I'm in for it. And then this guy's like wielding a fucking machete over my head like this. And all I can think in my mind is like, okay, like how can I like avoid this from like, what's the worst case scenario here? So all I did was I squinted my eyes as tight as possible. I don't know why I thought to do that at the time, but that was just what I did. And so I just went like this, squinted my eyes as tight as possible. He came down with the shit. Of course, boom, I'm in instant shock at the time. And I'm just like laying there bleeding out. And, my homie that I was with was older and was like a little more into some street shit because like I remember him being somebody that I looked up to, somebody I still keep in touch with to this day. Shout out to Jordan. But he was like trying to fight these guys off and like got stabbed, I believe in the hand, in the shoulder, also in the face. Like, but he was like up there still like throwing type shit, and I'm just like out cold, fucking in shock at this point. There was a moment where they like tried to like drag the girls into the car and bring them with like kidnap them. It was like the most crazy shit. But looking back at the situation, it's like when bro said, is he done, to someone else, later on in time as I matured, I'm like, that was probably some like initiation shit where it was like he's listening to somebody else's commands and that guy's kind of telling him what to do. So I'm like, maybe that's what the situation was at the time. I'm still trying to put that together. But I just remember waking up in the hospital, man, and I was like so confused and distraught, obviously still in shock. And I'm like, what happened? And the lady was like, oh, you just got alcohol poisoning. Like, you just got drunk. You just got too drunk and like made some bad decisions, because she didn't think I was going to be like awake like that. And I'm like, oh, really? I'm such an idiot. So like I went like this, like in shame. And then she's like, don't touch your face. I look down, my hands covered in blood. I'm like, what the fuck? What really happened? So they like wind up putting me back to sleep because I'm like freaking out trying to figure out what happened. My poor mother heard what happened, and like literally because it was so close to my house, she heard what happened because someone that was there called her, so that she followed the ambulance to the hospital right behind it in a snowstorm. Like, it was a fucking crazy wild night. But like I said, man, like I talk about it now, and it's one of those things where I was being really reckless at the time. I was making a lot of really poor decisions life-wise. And I just feel like if that moment didn't happen, I might have still been making those decisions, and it could have taken a darker turn. People look at me like, oh, what's darker than what you just told me? But it's like, trust me, shit can get real dark. You know what I mean? And I managed to survive that shit. So I made a record about it after a few years, and it was called Scars. I actually named an album. I had an album called Scars, and the title track was basically just me when I felt ready talking about the situation. And of course, I've waited for enough time to pass so that there was like no situation where like I was putting any of these people on blast, because I grew up with morals and code where no matter what the situation is, we just don't believe in that. So I waited until I felt like it was long enough. On this song, I kind of explained what happened. It didn't get too far into detail. I'm getting more into detail now because it's like been a decade plus. Yeah. But I actually thanked the guys that did it in the song, because I'm like, yo, if it wasn't for you guys doing that shit, I'd be out here wilding out still, doing a lot of dumb shit. Yeah. And that was the pivotal moment where I was like, okay, music is what I want to do forever, no matter what. Yeah. And I kind of just put my big boy pants on, said fuck the street shit. I was able to leave most of it alone. A lot of my OGs and like big homies that I'm still close with to this day were like, yo, bro, like take a step back. You got something with this rap stuff. Work on it, like hone that shit and make it happen. And I'm very grateful that we were able to do exactly that. So yeah, just crazy full circle universe shit, man.
That's crazy. And now you're co-signed to fucking co-signed by Death Row and shit.
I was like there with you the whole time. Just
no,
listening to you speak that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and like I said, bro, like I walked in here, not like I've never met you before, but I watched that clip about what happened to you, and I definitely resonated with it too. Like, and this is me looking at a phone watching you tell your story, not even sitting across from you hearing you tell yours, right? So, yeah, man, it was crazy, and I'm sure you kind of agree, right? Like it kind of smartened you the fuck up. I'm assuming, right? Like
so much stuff you said was just like I just wanted to put my hand up. I was about to say hallelujah. You know what I mean? Because one of the things that you said that was just so impactful to me. Yeah, was just the way it's almost like you got to pay your pound of flesh almost when you leave the street to go do what you did, and it's like you paid your pound. You thank them for making you.
It's like a test of heart. 100%. It's like, yeah, it's like okay, listen, like you claimed to be about all that, and then you got here, and then this happened, and it's like okay, it's basically just like you're just due. You know what I mean, type shit, and I totally agree with that for 100%. Sure. And it's actually crazy too, because like I'm not necessarily like a religious person by any means, but I've always been very like spiritual and shit like that. Like and my whole family has been. And I'll say too that like it was weird. Like a week or two prior to the moment happening, my parents had been seeing like a medium. I don't like using the word psychic because like that's some shit that I wouldn't believe in either. Where it's like, oh yeah, this person can just completely tell the future. But anyway, at the time, I was young, I was arrogant, and my parents were always going and seeing this person. Her name's Linda Rose. She's still very close with us now. Shout out to her. I love her very much. But at the time, I was just a cocky teenager, and I'm like, why are you spending all this money on this medium that's like telling you your future and all this shit? I'm like, this is just fucking like whack to me. You know what I mean? And I was just a dickhead about it. And I remember my mom being like, no, like, trust me, like if you can just find it in your heart to go see her and sit down with her and like just catch that energy, and then afterwards, if you don't believe in it, that's fine. Like we can agree to disagree. You know what I mean? And so I remember being like, whatever. So I went and I had like a session, quote unquote, I guess you can call it, with her. And she told me like, bro, she was like telling me these things about people that I'd lost, and I was like, okay, this is kind of crazy. Like it just kind of threw me off. And then she said to me specifically, she's like, you're gonna have like a very pivotal moment that happens to you, like I'm talking in the next like 2 weeks to a month, that is going to be like, and it's going to change your life completely. You're going to be okay, so don't think that you're not, because she knows I'm such a naturally anxious person from what she had heard from my parents. But she's like, yeah, like it's going to happen, something's going to happen that's going to change everything forever. And I don't want to scare you when I tell you this, but like it's going to be some pretty like epic shit, you know what I mean? And then boom, that happened.
That's fucking crazy, bro.
Bro, that just gave me when you were going through that, did you hear her words in your head?
No, because I was so smashed at the time. Because I was like celebrating this record with Snack. I was having this good night. I'm like hammered with my friends. So like it didn't click until after. But like when I came to and like looked at myself in the mirror and looked like a fucking real life Chucky doll, and everything started like coming to, I'm like, damn, like she was right. You know what I mean? And it was it was crazy. And like ever since then, I'm like, okay, I'm a fucking believer. You know what I mean?
To do something.
And then I started seeing her more often. I actually would like to go see her soon because it's been too long.
I'm gonna go see Linda.
Shout out Linda. Shout out to Linda. Yo, we're gonna take a quick commercial break and get right back into this.
Well, that was.
I mean,
all day.
And anytime you can, ask yourself, instead of why is this happening to me, what am I learning from it?
Exactly,
like,
for sure.
You learn, like.
Nothing's a mistake. It's all experience.
Yeah.
But just before we go into the break, though, I find the similarities in your stories. It's the reason why you are up every day and you're grateful, right? 100%. Because you've been to like, yo, 100%. Shit can be gone like this, but in retrospect, it was a good thing. Even to you, you say you don't regret it because you wake up every day with inspiration, and you know what the meaning of having life is, the power of it, and the beauty of it. And
totally,
I think that's relate to G's like this, man. You know what I mean? And
no,
we can talk some, you know,
real recognize real, bro.
It's so scary having kids, teenage kids. Like I have a 24-year-old, a 19-year-old, and 18-year-old. It's scary.
Yeah.
And watching them go through that.
Totally.
You know.
Yeah.
Growing up and.
Oh, for sure. I can only imagine.
Wild teenage shit.
And that shit scares me too, man. It's like, the idea of bringing another human in this world, knowing that what happened to me and how randomly the occurrence was, it's just like that. No, I can only imagine.
Shout out to being scared of having kids. Commercial break. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Let's go.
We back.
We back, baby.
Had some pizza.
Mm-hmm.
We had to take a break because Junk just had to just go on a mission in all camo. You know what I mean? He just went in
drilled.
Just went in, robbed a local Sev. You know what I mean?
Yo, shout out to OMD Clothing. These are the comfiest suits, though. Like literally, they have fire. Insert here.
Shout out OMD. When you get that 4XL, holla at your boy. You heard?
OMD, let's get it.
You may have it already. I don't know.
You send one over to
2XL bottoms, 4XL top. You know what I mean?
Speaking of being on missions, though.
Okay.
I just, as we share the same field of craftsmanship. How did you find? Do you find coming from the West Coast, Vancouver, Surrey? Did you find
West Coast specifically?
Yeah. Do you find that since there's no infrastructure there's no Sony headquarters, there's no Spotify shit, all the headquarters and all the stuff that you find in Toronto. Do you feel like being almost a do-it-yourself type of artist made you appreciate and navigate the rap scene in a different light? Because I seen you, bro. I've been on tour with you all over the place. You were doing everything yourself. I seen you answering messages. I seen you in the club before fucking your set would be on a laptop answering every single fucking fan, hitting them up in the DMs.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think that molded you into a more fierce, well-rounded artist than maybe being more of a corporate
that's a great question.
industry artist in Toronto? I'd say no shade to anybody out there. It's just a different beast out here.
For sure.
I find.
The West
I just wanted your take
West
on
and
that.
The East are vastly different in that way, for sure. And before I even answer that question, I want to say shout out to you because, bro, when I first started really taking this music stuff seriously, I'm talking the first time I stepped foot into a venue to perform.
Yeah.
Junk was literally a judge for the first 2 rap battles I ever did in my life.
Shit.
I was 15 years old at the time. First one I was shook as hell, took a major L to our boy, Young Hungry. Shout out to Young Hungry. And then in the second battle, came back, got my Just Do and got my Get Back. But I don't know if you were judging the first one. No, because you were battling.
I didn't judge. I was battling.
You were battling in the first event,
but I judged
you judged the second one for sure. Mm-hmm. So I just want to say, when he says he's seen me, me and him have really been through it for that long. So shout out to him. We've done European shows together, really
been around the world
in the mud type shit, and definitely one of the most slept on Canadian artists. So shout out to him all day long.
Man, shout out my guy, John, man.
For sure. But to answer your question, I will say that as far as being an artist, it's and that's the thing, right? It's kind of a hard ask because now. It's I am getting these major cosigns and getting these major looks that some people may deem as mainstream. But like you said, you were there to see the whole come up to get there. And I think that the East and the West are so different because, like you said, we don't have the headquarters here that Toronto may have and the big Spotify buildings or Warner or whatever may be there. You know what I mean? But I think that makes it cooler because I think that no matter what happens, and like I said, no shade to the East Coast because I got nothing but love for everything
of course.
going on over there and everything everybody's doing. But I think that there's been a long wait for a certain spotlight to be on the West Coast. And I think that everybody's worked really hard for a long time waiting for that moment to happen. And I think when said moment happens, it's going to be a celebration for everybody because we all worked really hard for that to happen. I think that, not having those big major buildings down the street definitely makes it tougher for us. But like I was saying earlier off camera, all day I'd rather do the slow grind and just do the shows where you show up and you're playing for 4 people. If 15 people show up, you mentally sold out in your mind because that's 10 more people than there was last week type shit. You know what I mean? And I think that those moments are kind of just what mold you as an artist. That's kind of what turn you into the artist that you become. Like I've, for many years, was jam packing 6 dudes in a Honda Fit, going on tour, borrowing the whip from my parents, going home and then coming home either breaking even or broker than when I left. And those nights where we had to stay in hostels after the show and come home with bed bugs and get the whole crib exterminated, turn you into the person you are. Because like I said, I look at these kids that are on TikTok or wherever that develop this sound that maybe sounds nuanced to us and nuanced to these younger kids that are fans of music in general, and they'll have this like explosive moment where they'll get up on stage for their first time ever, and there's 10,000, 20,000 people in front of them. Like, I can't imagine what that feels like, number one. Number two, they don't learn the lessons that we learned doing those 10, 15 people shows for so many years, and then finally getting, like, if we sold out, like right now, we just did a show here in Kelowna, like we did a few hundred people. To me, that's a trophy. I don't need to be in front of 50,000 people at Coachella to feel like that we're still growing and constantly grinding and doing the right thing. You know what I mean? Like there's many times where we'll play these same markets that we've been playing for literally 15 years plus, and we just collect these W's, and eventually, I promise you, all those little W's eventually turn into one giant one. And sometimes you can get that giant W too early. And if you get that giant W too early, you might miss your mark. You might trust the wrong people. There's so many lessons that I learned that I consider valuable to me now that I learned when I was down and out in the mud, really just doing all that shit that I hold close to my heart, that I are so valuable to me now that like I wouldn't trade them for the world. So
that's dope to hear, man. That's dope to hear, because you appreciate all the little wins. Like you said, 10, 15 people, shit. Those are people though still. You know,
They're
people
human
don't get
beings,
that. They're, oh man, I don't. It's like, nah, bro. Those are still people you're connecting with.
That's
like
organic growth.
Yeah.
If you're growing properly, you know, you
For
have
sure.
a loyal fan base. Whereas these people who blow up on TikTok, just as quick as they come in, as quick as they go out.
Whoa.
I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah, sounds like
So
skipping.
you've developed,
And these are kids that are, like I said, like we were talking about me having fake IDs and getting into clubs when I was too young and doing all that shit. Bro, these are kids that are like 15, 16 right now. You know what I mean? Living in the world we live in now, which is so much different than back then when we first started like touring these routes and doing these things, right? So, yeah, super, super important that you learn those lessons. And I mean, you can learn them in other ways, you know what I mean? But for me, it was definitely doing those shows. And like you said, like to speak to your point, like 15 people may not be a lot on the grand scale to some people, and like, oh yeah, last night 15 people pulled up to my show. Well, 15 of those people, if they enjoyed it, let's say 13 of those 15 people enjoyed the show that you put on. Those 13 people are going to go home. They're going to find you on the streaming platforms. They're likely going to be driving in their car to Tim Hortons one day to get their coffee with their friend in the passenger seat, and that friend might be like, yo, who is this? And then that person finds out who you are, does the same thing, buys the album, tells the next person, and it's all really just a snowball effect. And if people fail to understand that, or they feel like, oh, I'm putting my all into my craft and I'm working so hard, like how come I can't fill a room? Like, I know what it's like to put an entire project together, put it out, and nobody listens to it. And that shit is super not motivating. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, bro, like, you're going to have that core fan base. And I would rather have 5,000 core fans right now that I can rely on for the rest of my career than 50,000 fans that are not going to know who I am next week because little so-and-so popped up out of nowhere and completely stole the life from me.
Facts,
You know
bro.
what I mean?
That's facts. But I see you. You have that. But I've seen this guy dap up everyone in the club before the era of even him doing his meet and greets and shit. This guy is cool with everyone. And it just builds your, like, I learned that from you too, bro. Like, really, like you and Snack and shit, just going around how you deal with people,
totally.
dap them all up. Even if they're some fucked up individuals, shout out to them. You give them love because that person's going to buy your
you could be
record,
sticky,
stream your
sweaty, and drunk.
Oh,
and
and
still
there's
gonna give you that
90%
stuff.
of them fucking, they're fucked up and sweaty and shit. But you know
You should
what?
have deodorant at the merch table. You know?
Yo, that's
There
it.
you go. There's that next thing right there.
There you go.
I was gonna say real quickly, and I think you kind of alluded to it. Well, one of the questions I was gonna ask
Yeah,
you.
for sure.
I know what you're hitting him with.
Yeah, you know
this
what?
guy, he's on a wave.
Well,
Like,
and you kind of hit it, and you talk about that authenticity and that organic growth. So I kind of But what do you feel? And I mean, don't give away all the ingredients to the secret sauce. I get it, right?
Sure.
But what do you think are some of the elements that make up Merk that allow you to be successful in so many regards that people are either, you know, maybe they're viral success, but they can't have commercial success. Maybe they're street mixtape, but they can't go over here. How are you able to basically spawn all of these and maintain who you are? Or is that the key?
I think it's just honesty, bro. Honestly, like, being an open book is something that I found has, like, and I don't want to say work for me because that makes it seem like I conjured up this recipe where I'm just going to be brutally honest about myself and my struggles, knowing that that would be my niche and my thing that would work, because that's not it, right? I feel like you take one look at me, I'm like this big overweight dude covered in tattoos. You're not going to see me on the cover of GQ fucking magazine anytime soon. But guess what? If you are going through some shit and are looking for somebody that might try to give you advice through music, or somebody that you can just relate to, I promise you can rely on me in that way. You know what I mean? All I really do is, and I say this all the time, so I don't want to sound like a broken record, because I even say it on stage almost every night. Like, for me, music is therapeutic to me. I'm making this shit because, like, for me, it's like, yo, if I don't get in the studio once every couple weeks and just kind of pour my heart out, I'll likely drive myself crazy with the issues I'm going through. So for me to be able to do that and it be therapeutic for me, give it to the world gets it, and then all of a sudden they decide that it's helping them too. That's a literal fucking real life superpower, bro.
Yeah, no, it is.
And that's the thing that and like it's real, bro. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like I said, like I think that that's so important, and I feel like just being an open book and just showing. Because I know so many artists that I listen to that have that mystery about them, where you don't know too much about them, and that might keep you invested in who they are, because it's like you want to know more about them. And I understand how that works for some people, but I feel like in my case, in my situation, like it's funny because this is actually, like I said, the first podcast on camera that I've ever done. So you would think that I've done more of these the way I'm talking, but like at the same time, man, I just think for me, it just. I've always just been just as personality driven as I have been with my music. I've been honest. I've been an open book. Yeah. Like I feel like at the end of the day, I'm just doing my best version of being me, because there's days where I don't want to roll out of bed in general. And if I made it to the shower and got out the door when I feel like shit, then that's already a win. You know what I mean? So like
that shit's realer than being on GQ cover though. Anyways, like that's more impactful. You know, to somebody's life.
I know I'm gonna see you on GQ now, and I'm just like, you just got something gonna be flowing in the wind.
Well. Totally, for sure, man, 100%. Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. Yeah, and like I said, like just being able to do it, and I sound selfish, but like that's how much of an open book I am when I say that I do this shit for myself first, because I have to worry about myself first, because if I don't, I'll fall into a slump of depression and anxiety or what have you, and wind up doing some shit that I'll regret forever. You know what I mean? Man. So like. I have to be selfish in those ways first. You know what I mean?
Well, I'd say, first of all, I would say you're more self-aware. I wouldn't call you selfish. I call that very self-aware. Yeah, and I think sometimes, you know what, even the term selfish, I think gets a connotation of being like negative. I don't think that's
sometimes you gotta be selfish. You
have to be selfish.
You gotta worry about yourself.
100%.
That's the thing, though, man. Because when you sign up for this shit, and like you go through years and years and years of waiting for that moment to happen, hoping that moment happens, and then the moment does finally happen, you're so used to being selfless because you have to give yourself to everybody all the time, no matter what it be. You got to let promoters shit on you, even though you know you're worth more. You got to go out there and fucking basically whore yourself out in hopes that it's going to work, and it might not. And then sit there with the thought of the fact, hey, I just whored myself out and it didn't work. The disgusting feeling that comes with that is like shit that's hard to even describe in words. But the thing is, the reason why I say things like selfish, even though you may not perceive it as that, is because I'm so used to having to be selfless to get to where I'm at.
That's how you
so it's like, oh shit, I just admitted on camera that I actually thought about myself first. And the thing is I'm so used to not being wired that way that to me, that's how I instantly perceive it, because I have to be selfless at all times. And like, this is something I'm learning in therapy right now. I have been doing therapy, like not super crazy deep therapy, but I've been doing therapy for the first time recently. And they've been teaching me like that I'm struggling with this thing called survivor's guilt, essentially because of like the situation that we touched on with the stabbing. Me coming from a place where 90% of my friends right now are either dead, locked up, hooked on fentanyl, or out there doing their thing in the street. You know what I mean? And so like I have this weird thing in my head that I didn't even realize was there until I started doing therapy, where it's like I'm so confused about the fact that it actually worked for me with the hard work, that why are all my people still down here working on themselves and it's not working for them? So it's like this thing that I'm learning, right? And that's why I'm such a people pleaser. Like, you're always going to catch me running to try to pay the bill for everybody, even if I just met you. You're always going to catch me doing whatever I can to help the next man, even if I don't really know them yet. And as cool as that may be, there's times where I need to start thinking about myself, because it gets to a point where 100%. I'm now self-sabotaging. Bro, as much as helping everybody else is
spreading
cool,
yourself thin now.
Yeah, you're hitting a point now where you're just kind of like, your self-respect has to come into the picture and come into play. and that's something I'm working on. But yeah, to speak to the selfless, selfish thing, like that's kind of where I'm at with that. And like I said, I'm learning every day, and like it's so I feel shitty because I always say like, oh, I suggest therapy for everyone because I find that it's helping me in some ways. But at the same time, that's also me expecting that everybody can afford something like therapy, and that shit is not fucking cheap. You know what I mean? So
100%.
if you have the means to afford it, and that's something that you can consider because financially you're able to do it, then yes, I suggest therapy for sure for anybody and everybody.
That was, you know what I mean? Yeah. Thank you. Like that actually was like crystallized some things for me as we relay. I was like, you know what? You're right. I kind of do some of them shits too.
Yeah.
Maybe you know what? So I was listening to your most recent single, God's Plan, right? That was on Spotify. And I know when I was listening to your verse, you were talking about some of the habits you're trying to overcome, some of the things you're alluding to here. It's funny, they kind of cross over. So I'm wondering, when you talk about this, what's the most difficult challenge or habit that fame has brought into your life that you're facing right now?
I think it's just like I said, signing up for it and then it happening. Yeah. It's like a very be careful what you wish for situation, because there's days where I don't want to go to the supermarket and essentially have some person roll up on me, super excited to meet me if I'm having a bad day, and then me kind of have to try to match their energy and be a like nice person.
Selfless again.
Being selfless, right? Yeah. So that stuff can be tough for me at times, especially when I'm not on the road, because when you're on tour, you're programmed. Like
that's the mission.
Every day that you open your eyes, you know what's going to happen that day. It's like, and you know this because it becomes a routine. You wake up, you know what I mean? You do your sound check, or you feel like such shit that I'm getting Chunky to check my vocals for me instead because I don't even want to physically be at sound check because I need that 20-minute nap that I feel like I might actually get before I go in and do the meet and greet, but then 9 times out of 10 I don't even get that nap because I'm stuck in my head. So anyway,
very familiar.
You know what I mean? So like there's all that, and so tour is one thing because you're like you know what you're looking forward to, but then there's days where you don't want to put the cape on, or you forget that the cape is even supposed to be worn, and you just are going out there being you. There's days I wake up and it's like, okay, I'm cold right now, and then all of a sudden I'll go to the store and 20 people are asking me for photos, and as much as I appreciate that, because without those people, I promise you I'm very self-aware, like you said, that I would not be here without that support. But at the same time, there's days where it's just like, it's tough, man, because I'm a human being, you know what I mean? And it's crazy because I think about like comedians and shit like that have to like go through that, and it's like, imagine getting spotted and having to take that photo, but then being expected to be funny on top of it, or like when people like actors, right? Like when their fans get invested.
Say this line.
Yeah, like when it, like imagine what McLovin's day-to-day life is like right now. You know what I mean? Like fucking, I would hate that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I think that even when that situation as musicians, we're pretty blessed because it's like, yo, I heard your music, this song helped me, or I love this song. This song is like nostalgic to me at a certain time in my life. When you put this out, it makes me think about that time. So it's like I feel like I can't even complain because there's people like comedians and actors, actresses, etc., that have to deal with it on an even crazier scale than us. But
that's you feeling blessed, though. I think comes back to that. You know what I mean? From the get go.
Yeah, I feel like I just gave you a 15-minute answer for one question. I apologize.
Hey,
no, it's all good, bro. Talk to us about Shaquille O'Neal. Let's fucking do it.
Shout out to Shaq. That's my dog, for real. No, he's the best. And another thing that's tough, because you were asking me like, what do you find that's tough when it comes to like having those eyes on you and being in a public space, is like sometimes that old saying, like, never meet your idols. Sometimes you meet your idols and they're the fucking worst, and then you hear their songs and then you have a whole different definition of who they are as a person when you hear their music, or whoever the celebrity might be. It doesn't have to be just music, but Shaq is one of the good ones, man. He shout out to World Star. I did that stupid ass Old Town Road remix. I did it kind of like in a satire way, like it was just a funny thing that we just threw together like for jokes.
Dope though.
Thank you. But I put it out, and then the shit, of course, it's the thing that I don't put anything into, like I'm just doing as a joke that becomes the most viral out of anything we've ever done. But anyway, did that. World Star picked it up. He saw it. He commented on it. Showed me bare love. I was like, bro, you're the best. Thank you so much. I couldn't even believe that he was messaging me, following me. Dude, this guy sent me a video of him like pretending to lip sync it because he had just heard it. And I was like, obviously this is content that I can use. So I'm like posting that, flexing that, of course. And then he was, one day somebody sends me a link to a YouTube video, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I open it. Bro, it's on Shaq's official YouTube. The fucking caption of the YouTube video is me auditioning to do a song with my favorite Canadian rapper, Merkules. And it's him sitting in his office at like Sportsnet or wherever the fuck he is with his homie who's like a DJ, I'm so sorry I forgot his name because I know he's a legend in his own right. So shout out to him. But he's like standing behind him. They're like playing a classic beat from back in the day, which ended up being the beat that we used on the song we did together the first time. But it's him just like freestyling about me and like throwing all these Canada references in, talking about Vancouver and all this shit. I'm like, bro, this is bugged out to me. I'm like, what? Like,
that's crazy.
I'm like watching this, like, is this even real? Like, like I said, another pinch me moment.
Yeah.
And then I messaged him because he had given me his number at the time, and I'm like, dude, this is like, do you know what this is like doing for me right now? This is insane, bro. And he was like, just keep doing your thing, man. I fucking love you. And I'm like, for sure, bro. And then we kept texting back and forth, and then fucking. I was in Toronto at the time or I went to Toronto shortly after we started chatting, and I had a show. We did a show. It was actually a very pivotal moment for us in Toronto because Toronto, they call it the Screwface Capital because it's almost impossible to sell out in Toronto because there's so much shit happening all the fucking time. And it was one of the first times ever that we sold out like a 1,500, 2,000 person venue there. And that shit was like super fucking fulfilling for us. But we had a day off the next day. He happened to be out there for a Raptors game, was doing commentary on it, and was like, we can meet, come and see me. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I pull up, and this is like, bro, this isn't just a Raptors game. This is like Raptors fucking Golden State. Like, well, that shit was like really happening, like 2018 or
2018,
whatever.
I think it was.
Yeah. So I pull up, and I'm like, okay, I'm here, and then I'm like sitting there, just waiting for him to tell me what box he's in or where I'm going, and like I'm sitting there anxious as fuck, watching the game, and then he's like, come see me at fucking gate C34 or some shit. And I like get up, and there's like, bro, hundreds of people just like surrounding him, just fucking right in his face, cameras out, taking photos of him. And he's like smiling, being nice to everybody, doing his thing. But I was like worried because I'm like, he's not going to see me here. Like, he told me to come up here, but how's he going to spot me? You know what I mean? So my security at the time was just like, Shaq, Merkules, just kept yelling Merkules over and over again at him. And eventually he heard it and it caught his ear, and he was like, oh shit, come here, man. And then like, bro, I'm like walking up to meet him, and then I like met Timbaland on the way to meet Shaq through the crowd. I was on an elevator with Timbaland coming up there to fucking meet Shaq for the first time. Crazy bugged out shit. So anyway, fucking met him. He was everything I expected him to be. Really nice guy. We were supposed to go to the Snoop show that happened that night. I ended up going, but he ended up having to stay back because he had some business shit to deal with. But anyway, my whole point is, I'm rambling now, is that he is the coolest motherfucker ever. He ended up sending me that verse that he did on YouTube, like recorded on wax with an open verse, and it's like an old, I can't even remember who it is. It's an LL Cool J instrumental, like an old classic LL joint. And he was like, let's just use this beat because I already wrote this verse and I talk about you in the verse. So we did that, and it was called Who Want That Smoke, and then we put it out on my YouTube channel. And like, I think a lot of people kind of laughed at it because they didn't believe it was real, even though he was like saying my name and shit. They're like, oh, is this like a ode to Shaq, and it's like someone impersonating Shaq, or like, because it was just such a huge moment that like almost was not believable.
Yeah, that's
and then
crazy.
Since then, me and him have been like this, and like he's on my new album. He just did a verse for me a couple weeks ago.
That's crazy.
Super Diesel, cool. Man.
Nicest guy ever.
Timeless.
And people need to not forget the fact that Shaq has fucking literal platinum rap albums.
Bars.
This motherfucker has records with Biggie, bro, and Wu-Tang. Like,
and video games.
Yeah, and not even to put his fucking features on on Front Street First. Like he's talented, bro. Like, he's actually a dope rapper. Yeah, you know what I mean. And I think that's people need to remember that too. Just like we were talking about the jaw thing, like Shaq 100%. Gets busy,
bro. He's been doing it since like '93.
But I come from the era of Shaq Fu, baby. What you know about Shaq Fu?
For real,
totally. Also a selfless human, I think.
Oh, totally.
You know what I mean? I've seen him do wild shit all the time.
Oh man,
helping people out.
Dude, I was at like Victoria, or I was on the island visiting family, and then I came back, and then I was like hoping to go see him at this festival he was doing. It was Rifflandia, I believe. And so I had some friends that I was with that came out with me to the island because we were doing our own shit or whatever. And then we all just like pulled up to Rifflandia to go see him because he invited us there. And I was like kicking it with like Baby No Money and a couple other people. And I knew Shaq was coming, so I'm like hitting him, being like, hey bro, hit me when you land. Like not even really expecting him to hit me right away. Like maybe he gets busy and forgets that I'm here, whatever. Like, because I would totally understand if that was the case. But nah, man, this guy lands in his PJ, shows up to the spot. Only thing on his rider is like some water and a hookah. He just loves his fucking hookah. Sitting there hitting his hookah. I bring like 15, 20 homies and some family, like right up into his area, and he's giving every single person that 2 minutes. You know what I mean?
That's awesome,
and it just showed me and reinstilled in me that's how you gotta fucking be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not that you have to be, but like, because it has to be genuine. But like, it was just one of those reassuring moments where I'm like, yo, this is the guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's fucking. This is Shaq we're talking about.
Shout out to Shaq.
Yeah, shout out to Diesel, man.
You mentioned Snoop too because you were supposed to go to a show. So like that's an ill segue to the Snoop shit. Like,
oh, totally, for sure.
It's also crazy how you're super connected just with the LA scene too. It's like crazy, bro.
Yeah,
Snoop, Shaq.
For sure. No, totally. It's
random, but also not random. But
no, it is random, man. Because like I said, I'm still pinching myself, being like, what the fuck. But no, it's funny because like I said, my homie Kev, shout out to Kev, Killadilla, that's my boy, but he's from London, Ontario, like Canadian originally. Been Snoop's guy for the longest, and shown me so much love, and is the only reason why I'm even in those rooms now, as far as the death row situation goes. But like anytime Snoop would come to Canada, like I remember there was a time where I went to the Stampede and Snoop was playing Stampede. He would like get us side stage tickets no matter what, and like show me love. And like I wasn't at the point there where I was like going and kicking it with Snoop necessarily backstage, but he was always make sure that I'd like get a ticket and like have my little area, and,
showing
like,
you the love regardless.
Yeah, and I could like flex a little bit and then go to the after party and like, you know what I mean? Like just always showing me love. So that's how I, like I said earlier, how I originally got close to Snoop. But yeah, just it's crazy, man. Just full circle universe shit. And obviously Shaq and Snoop love each other too. So
fuck
yeah,
you're exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Oh, totally, for sure.
That's crazy. Yeah. So was there any, you talk about everyone, you know what, that might, fuck it. Is there anyone that you met that disappointed you?
Ooh, let's get the dirt.
Bro, the funniest thing about this is, and like, I don't fucking care if this is like, if he sees this or whatever, because it's just a random occurrence that happened forever ago. I was like I was a small kid. We had a show in fucking Chilliwack of all places. I think, yo, Dylan, you were there.
Shout out to DTG.
Camera,
Shout out to DTG.
I think you performed with me actually, but Gorilla Zoe, dude, was like the biggest dickhead ever, and I'm like, who the fuck would expect that necessarily? But like, Chunky, Chunky, you were there too, right?
First of all, Gorilla's always in Chilliwack?
Huh? Yes, I know. You were there too, right? Yeah, you opened too. So whatever, we're all on the bill. A bunch of us are opening, and not to like try to fucking include every person in the room here, but yeah, it's clicking as I'm telling this story, bro. This guy was like supposed to go up. I do my little set, whatever. It's now his turn, and like I just watched him treat the promoters like shit, the DJ like shit, the fucking like everyone there. He made them like fucking. He made the person hosting, whoever that was at the time, I can't even remember, like say his name like fucking 20 times because they weren't loud enough for him to come out. And it's like, respectfully, bro, you're in Chilliwack, BC, and there's like maybe fucking 30 teenagers here to come see you. Like, this is just too much for you to be doing. Cool to me, so I'm not going to say he's a shitty human, but
just treating others like
treating
trash.
everybody else.
A little disappointing.
And it is what it is, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fair
fucking whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not up here saying fuck Gorilla Zoe by any means. And
That's what I heard.
But
Yeah, I'm just playing.
You know what I mean? It is what it is.
Play it.
Like I said, open book. So there you go. That's my answer.
One track he had was pretty good.
Oh, he had a couple joints. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
he had a couple joints.
A little run there. Yeah.
For sure he did.
Yeah, the hood.
Speaking of open books, let's close it real quick for another quick commercial break. Get freshened up again. We'll be right back.
Let's do it.
Dan's got to order more pizza.
Oh, sorry, I had to go out on another mission, dripping in the camo, but you know, mention all these interesting people that you've come across, from basketball players to rap superstars and shit, bro. Like, another person I wanted to ask you about, because I find him to be super inspirational, and musically gifted, but very, very inspiring human. And I've really only gotten into him in the last like year and a half, like heavily. Yeah. Like I fuck with him back in the day because he did a lot of rap music with other rappers I listened to. But I know you're like homies and super close with Jelly Roll. Like, how has his ascension, has his ascension inspired you to maybe even just start crossing over and experimenting with new directions and new paths of doing music? Or
I think you can agree with this when I say that, like, as far as being a rapper, quote unquote rapper, like, don't get me wrong, I'm gonna be a spitter forever. That's just in my blood naturally. But like, sometimes I feel like I can only rap about being a dope rapper for so fucking long before it's like, okay, like, yes, I'm honest about my mental health and stuff in my music, but as you get older and you mature, like, you just look for more substance. And I think that's why, like, I look at a guy like Jelly, who I'm so proud of, who's like a literal world superstar now. Like, this guy was at the Grammys with Taylor Swift last week. Like, really living that life now. I look at his success, and then I just look at my growth and me maturing as a human being and getting older and stuff like that. And it's like, he's somebody who kind of just like put the battery in my back to start singing hooks. You know what I mean? And like, so did like guys like Evil, obviously, another one of
Shout
my
out to
OGs.
Evil.
Shout out to Evil all day. But like, as far as like just being more musical and finding tones you didn't know you have, and realizing like, hey, even though I've been rapping with this raspy voice for a decade plus, I'm also can tap into like a smooth melody that I didn't know was there. So shout out to Jelly all day. As far as human beings go outside of the music that they make, another guy who is just like a solid 10 out of 10 in every way, shape, and form. I found his music because a friend of mine, like, this is like a long ass time ago, he actually just only did the rapping shit too, and like the street rap shit, because he has like a past just like a lot of us do in that realm of the world, right? And yeah, one of my homies like that was been on some street shit forever was like, hey man, shout out James. He was like, yo, check this guy out. And I remember watching his 10-minute freestyle, and that's like one of the first things he did that went viral. And it's essentially him like fresh out the pen, like just with his homie with a camera and some random instrumental in the back, and it's just him freestyling about just coming home at the time and how he just served his bid, and if my PO asks, I hang drywall, which became like his slogan to be from there on. And that was when I first found his shit, and fan instantly. And then as my music started doing its thing, and as I started growing, I was able to like get that blue check and slide in his DMs and be like, hey bro, like I'm a fan type shit.
Yeah.
And he embraced me fully right away off the rip, like more than I could have asked him to. And me and him just became close. And we also have this thing because we're both two really heavy set dudes in rap with face tattoos that get judged automatically no matter what for the way that we look. And so to see somebody that came from that, and is like, he's just lost like 100 pounds, so shout out to him. Most people don't even know that he's on his grind right now, so he's killing it, and trying to get back to where he was, because me and him have both put it on and lost it. But shout out to him all day. He embraced me in ways that I didn't expect him to. Was my guy, became one of my closest friends, is still one of my closest homies now. We have a relationship where I understand that he's on top of the world right now. We might not talk every other day, but anytime that it's important or he knows that I like need some advice or something, he's always there. And those are the most important relationships. It's not a high maintenance friendship by any means. If I need him, he's there. If he needs me, I'm there. And I just do not have any more good words I could say about him. Like, he's just, he's the guy. He's the fucking man. So shout out to Jelly, and so proud to see what he's doing right now. Like, it's crazy. Just, yeah. So that's my answer to that.
That's fire, bro. That's super fire. And you got records with him too.
Yeah, we got lots of shit. And that's the thing, bro, is like, shout out to him, because he's fucking blown up now, so my Spotify fucking bags got a little different when he took off. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Some shit that we did back in the day. You know what I mean?
That's hard.
But no, yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, it's like, oh, he just won a People's Choice Award and he couldn't be there because he's like headlining a show with Willie Nelson or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like every day I just see him catch this like other wave or this W that I didn't see coming, and it's just so inspiring to watch. So yeah, he's the man for real.
That's fire. You got a new album coming out. You're working on a new album.
Yeah, totally.
No, I don't want to.
Give away
I'm kind of fucking ask you whatever.
No, I'll give you some tea for sure.
Let me hear, like, what's this album about? Why is this album different than your other albums? What is special about this album to you? And what kind of features can we expect?
Yeah.
Can you give us a couple features? I know you said Shaq was on this one.
Yeah, Shaq's on there. Shout out to Shaq, obviously. I think the thing that sets this record apart from anything else that I've done is ever since I dropped my first album, I haven't waited this long to drop another project. So, like, after my first album, it was like every year, maybe 2 years max, I would drop like something I could call a project, whether that's even an EP or a full-length album or whatever, just a project in general. And it's been 4 years, which is so
wow, 4
crazy.
years? That's crazy, dude.
It's been 4 years since I dropped the album. I remember the last one I dropped was 2020, and it was like right when COVID hit. At the time, I was working with like it was the first like label deal album that I ever did, so like it was a new situation for me. Definitely had like voices in my ear telling me like, oh well, maybe we should do this and maybe do that or whatever. So it was like just a different dynamic. I'm back like independent again. Yes, obviously I'm repping Death Row all day. This is my first project.
Full creative control here.
Yeah, full creative control. Like I said, I mean, yes, I have that umbrella, but at the same time, it's like this is the first project where I get to wear that hat and be like, you know what I mean? This is like my first Death Row project. But I will say definitely like as far as waiting this long, it's been this thing where I've like thought in my head just being an artist and being critical of myself, where it's like, oh, like, are they going to embrace this like they have on other projects? It's been so long. As things change, have they got better? Have they got worse? just being a critical artist and being the naturally anxious person I am, I've almost prolonged it just because I'm scared to see what that outcome is. But being an open book again, it's like I'm manifesting that it's going to be everything I expect it to be. The music itself is by far some of my favorite shit that I've ever made. I'm very confident in the music that I'm making, but I'm also just that person that's so self-critical where it's like, oh, are they gonna digest it the same way I'm digesting it when I hear it back? As far as features go, we got a ton of features on there, but I'm also trying to make sure that, because there is such thing as albums with too many features, and I want to make sure that they're also getting the best version of me at the same time. So I'm making sure that like we're finding a way to kind of like teeter-totter the feature and solo record situation. You know what I mean? So we got Shaq on there. We got I don't even want to say these are all going to be on the album, but these are some collabs that I have for people to look forward to. We got Shaq on there. We got Brother Lynch Hung on there, which is huge for me because, as I said, I grew up listening to him. X-Rated's also on the record, another person that I grew up listening to, so like pinch me moment again for sure. My bro Millie's is on there. I shouldn't even say on there. Have these collabs come. Millie's, Young Buck, The Game, Dax, Tech 9. There's more. And it's the worst because I blank out because there's so many. My bro Golden and I got a crazy record. Who else? Paul Wall is me and Paul Wall just did something crazy. What's that? Oh, I thought you just said
that's a crazy that's a crazy list of features right there.
There's more, and that's the thing is I can't even remember them all. So
a lot of production from different producers, or C-Lance heavy on this one too. Shout out to C-Lance.
Yeah, me and C-Lance work very closely together. I'm not going to say that the whole record is going to be produced by him necessarily, because there's some records that aren't. For example, the Millie's record isn't produced by him. All right. That record's produced by Nigel Childs, who also produced like Go and Die, which was like literally my first platinum record ever. So shout out to Nigel Childs.
Shout out to Nigel.
But yeah, no, I definitely have like a few producers that I kind of that I revisit their stuff. You know what I mean? And like me and C-Lance are like this. Of course. So we work very closely all the time. But he's super cool and understanding when it's like, hey man, I just need to go draw some inspiration over here.
Oh, he's great. C-Lance is.
You know what I mean? So shout out to C-Lance all day. And that's the thing, man. Let's talk about producers for a second because it frustrates the shit out of me how much producers get slept on, because to me they're 50% of the recipe. You know what I mean? All we're doing is taking something that they've already created and then giving our best version of what we think belongs on the rest of it. And I think that it's so important that we give producers their just due. Some producers 100%. Don't want their face to be in the spotlight necessarily. They want to be behind the scenes, and that's cool, don't get me wrong, but man, it's so important for us to like give our producers their flowers.
Engineers too.
Engineers, shout out NATO. I've been working with him since my first project ever. NATO, C-Lance, all the people that I work with closely. It's very important that they get their flowers, I think, because
Now, on the topic of producers, is there any producers that you wanted to work with?
Oh, tons. I could sit here and do that all day. Hit Boy, DJ Premier. There's so many more. I'm kind of almost like drawing a blank because there's so many. Harry Fraud, I really want to work with as well. I got some beats from Havoc that I got to go revisit.
From Mobb Deep?
Yeah, Havoc from Mobb Deep.
I slept on.
Oh, super slept on.
Is he though? Like
Shook Ones?
Is he slept on?
I feel like he doesn't. I think people are gonna
as a producer.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. I don't know. Like he's in my top 3 greatest producers.
Bro, there's so many rap. That's the thing. When you're a rapper producer, it's such a different story, right? Yeah. Like the Alchemist, another name that I'd love to work with. But those producers are producers. I mean, Hit Boy's rapping and doing his thing, and like they're doing the Alchemist thing or whatever. That was dope. I love seeing that. But I think personally that like when you're a rapper producer, it's so tough to decide if they get their just due as a producer or not, because it's like everybody's digesting them as a rapper first and foremost, no matter what. Like, bro, look at even like a guy like Necro. Like Necro's an incredible producer.
Yeah,
bro.
dope producer.
And nobody talks about it.
I freestyled to so many of his beats, bro. Going like all like
dude,
that
I have
was
a video of me 14 years old before I even stepped in the studio, just rapping to a webcam over a Necro beat. And another situation where now he's somebody that I consider my friend, so it's trippy for sure. But yeah.
And then of course Q-Tip. People forget about
Q-Tip. Yeah, that's
Q-Tip's crazy.
Nice,
totally.
Nice with it.
I could use a Q-tip right now. I've been out here in fucking Kelowna for 5 days with no Q-tips, man. I'm big on the Q-tips. My chick gets choked at me. I'll leave dirty ones around the crib and shit. It's something I'm like mentally working on, to be honest.
Me too. They say you're not supposed to use Q-tips in the air. But I'm like, I'm in there just digging.
They say it's like mad, like not good for you.
No, because it pushes the sludge deeper into your brain.
So what are you supposed to do?
Headphones, you get that vibration.
My mom gets the shit pulled right out.
Oh yeah, you got to get that drained out.
Yo.
This candle and shit.
Man.
This is fucking hilarious.
You know, you pull.
Yeah, facts.
This guy, you just said your chick and
They
your
pull
mom.
enough out of my ear, I'm gonna be like side neck for the rest of my fucking life. You know what I mean? Sorry, continue.
No, it's cool because it's comedic, but it's a funny kind of wrap up segue of today. You mentioned your chick, you mentioned your mom, you mentioned your dad. I kind of feel like wrapping up in this is a good spot for you because I know you haven't talked about it yet, but what is the importance, music aside, what is the importance to having a family and people that you love in your corner when you're ascending on a constant ascension to getting to where you are in music, but how important is it to have that home balance to keep your head on straight? You know what I mean? Like I think it's a good way to just
My favorite.
I know you're a family guy, so like
I mean, just because I look like
family.
Peter Griffin. But
No.
no, I'm just joking. But no, bro, honestly, my favorite question that
hashtag viral moment.
My favorite question that's been asked this whole podcast is that. It's so
Get it, bro.
important,
Let us know.
I'm very grateful to be blessed the way I am in all departments, whether that be my mom, my dad, my wife, other members of my family that like support me closely. I know that a lot of people also that are grinding or just doing their thing musically aren't as blessed in those ways, and so I'm very, very, very grateful that I'm so blessed that way. My wife is somebody who, and I call her my wife. We actually aren't married yet, so I got to figure that out. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. We're 10 years deep. Like we gotta lock that in.
Yo.
That's why the brothers be loving you, dog.
for
You
real,
out here moving like us.
But no. So I've said this before. I say it on stage, but I haven't said it like really on a podcast or interview. Like I met her because I was on Facebook and I had like I don't want to say zero fan base because there was a couple people listening at that time, and I don't want to shade them when I say this, but very small niche fan base at the time, doing my thing, broke as fuck still, like in the trenches doing my thing. And I made a Facebook post. I just said, hey, I want to watch the Trailer Park Boys movie or whatever. And a few people commented like links to a streaming link or whatever that would work so I could watch it. And then she commented, I clicked the link, and then the stream worked, and that's how I watched the movie. And then I went to her page after, saw she was cute, DM'd her, said, hey, thank you so much for the working link. Like, I appreciate you. We start talking back and forth. Before you know it, we're on the phone every day for 6 months. And then I lined up my first ever headlining tour where I'm talking literally stoked if 7 people show up, like we were talking about, kind of scaling back to what we were speaking on earlier. And yeah, man, I got a show in Red Deer, Alberta, and that's where she lived.
Oh, she
And so I had to I borrowed like $200 off my parents, got the limo from the hotel to her crib to the restaurant. Like I was really trying to do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, so I did that. I was with shout out Kripal at the time. He was on tour with me. Me and him finished the whole tour, which went all the way to like Quebec and stuff. But like I said, my first headlining tour, so I'm talking like sleeping in fucking dirty motels, like that type of shit.
Yeah.
Finished the tour, come home, pack my bags, moved to Red Deer, Alberta, lived there for 6 years. Eventually convinced her to move to BC, and like she was working, like she had a management job at Earl's at the time. I had no job. I was just doing this rap shit, and I was like just cooking music all day while she was at work, and like she was so understanding about it that like I almost felt guilty. She was always telling me like, hey, just keep doing your thing, like it's gonna happen, whatever. And we built this foundation together, right? So like I can't give her enough credit. I love her very much, and she's taught me so many things about myself and teaches me how to like appreciate myself in ways that I wasn't able to before. So shout out to wifey. My mom and dad, I'm very, very open about online. My dad is fucking hilarious. Me and him have that dynamic where everybody loves him. We switch clothes once a year. But what you don't see is the fact that aside from all the humor, he's like the most supportive father ever. My mom is a literal fucking angel on earth. Like, I'm an only child, so my mom embraced all my friends growing up and kind of brought them in and just like took care of them if they didn't have that situation at home. And my mom is like literally like fucking like a godsend to all of us, and all my friends can agree. So yeah, very blessed in that department. Shout out mom, shout out dad, shout out my wife, and yeah, they're my entire world. And I would not be here without them 110%, because that's a support system behind the scenes that you don't see. You know what I mean?
The real pillars.
When you're going through it and you need to pick your phone up and you need to talk to somebody, that's who you call. But also at the same time, the guy's on tour. You know what I mean? Cass is like one of my best friends. He's my assistant, quote unquote.
Chosen family.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, he's somebody who I've known forever. Me and DTG shot my first music video in like 2009 or some shit when I was like just starting, you know what I mean? Chunky I've known forever. He was in the trenches with me back in the day. Chunky was a guy that brought me a fucking $60 bag of weed because I couldn't find a weed dealer. I found him on Facebook because I knew he sold weed. He pulled up to a studio session, saw me recording music, and then a week later became a rapper. And I'm not making fun of him for that. That's dope. Side neck, a guy who would show up to our fucking shows with a camera, film everything, and then dump the footage on us for free and be like, here, if you need footage of your show. Like, everybody here is here for a reason.
Solid
Bolo,
people.
obviously, is in the picture recently. But, like, everybody here has something, like, there's a reason that they're here, and they deserve to be. And like I said, bro, I've known you for the longest, you know what I mean? Like, it's all universal at the end of the day. And like I said, first podcast I've been on, but I'm
Best podcast you've been on.
I mean, I can't say that because I was on my wife's and that was audio. But
Okay, video podcast.
Best visual art. Yeah, visual.
Best
podcast.
video podcast.
Yeah, and I've had the opportunity of meeting you. I think it was around 2014.
yeah, I've known you for a long time too, bro.
Just
for
incredible, man. Your
Yeah, man.
energy's always been on point. I
Thank
remember,
you,
but before I even knew who you were, I remember seeing this kid about to grab the mic, shirt off. And
Yeah, that was me.
you know,
Yeah.
just engage the
I had
crowd.
a Viking helmet at one
Incredible.
point. Remember that era?
Actually, that
Good
was.
times.
I think I DJ'd Joey. It was like Joey. Remember Joey Johnson Buck? He was a promoter in Kelowna.
I'm not too sure.
Joey and what was his JDK? I think another guy's name.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah.
That
So
strikes a memory for sure.
Yeah,
Totally.
rest in peace to Joey. Actually, he passed away a few years ago.
R.I.P. man, for sure.
RIP. But that was the first show that I met you.
Okay,
And
dope.
we did a couple
No, I
after-
remember, man, because PDO was like, yo, he's the guy, and then we got to know each other, and I would always get used to seeing you at all the events, man. And like I said, you're a legend in your own right too, bro. You've been doing your thing for a very long
I
time.
appreciate that coming from you, man.
100%, bro. You deserve all the credit, man.
Yo, Merk, I've known you forever, bro. But I feel like I know you more after the conversation we had here today.
Oh, totally, for sure.
I appreciate you being here today, being super hospitable to us and whatnot, and telling your story. I feel more connected to your story, bro, and I hope it does the same to the viewers.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for being on the Grey House
man.
podcast,
Bless
bro.
you.
Nothing but
Thank you
love,
for joining us,
and
bro.
I can't wait to check out your new album and your new endeavors and your new
100%.
journey
All
in
the
life,
success,
man.
bro.
And keep
Yeah,
doing your
vision.
thing, man. I'm happy to be here, like I said, and I
know.
believe it or not was like watching all the stuff that you guys have been doing behind the scenes, and it inspires me in many ways too. So keep doing your thing.
Much love, brother.
Much
Hey
love.
man, thank you so
Appreciate
much.
You already
So
know.
honored to have you here, brother. All
100%,
right, man.
That's likewise.
Grey House podcast, you know what it is. Sean, Invisible, Merk, DTG, our boy Dan.
We out here, man.
Tap
Oh,
in.
Merkules and the whole team out here,
We'll
man.
do a part 2 soon.
Oh
for
man,
sure.
can't wait,
Absolutely,
dog.
you already know.
Yo, thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you for joining us, guys. I
Love.
appreciate you.